Hey guys, welcome back to the Ground Up Show. My name is Matt Diavella, and this is episode 72. You might recognize my guest today from his YouTube channel, where he talks about minimalism, filmmaking, creativity, as well as travel and much, much more. It's Craig Adams. On the podcast, we talk about when minimalism goes too far, how to avoid clickbait and sensational content, being original, and how to simplify the role of social media in your life. This is Craig Adams.
You're doing the one-man band here.
It's the one-man band.
Yeah.
Is that how you started out?
Yeah. I think we all started out. I started with weddings, and that was definitely a one-man band. Yeah. I always wanted people to help out. I didn't know any other filmmakers until I got to college, you know.
Yeah.
It was always just friends who wanted to be in my movies.
Was it you just started out making like weird little videos?
Yeah. I've had this conversation. It's always funny how similar the paths to being a filmmaker begin. Like making little jackass sketches and like just trying to be funny with video. Because I feel like, I don't know, it's either zombies or like skits when it's starting out, like comedy or like over the top post-apocalyptic dramas for some reason.
Yeah, and then you have the skateboard videos as well. The skateboarders have their own niche of GoPro style videos, but it's that was me too. It was definitely sketch comedy was the very beginning. I guess even before then it was making like horror slasher films that like nobody ever saw. It was like shot on my parents' VHS tape. But yeah, it was definitely just trying to make your friends laugh and do goofy shit. I wish I had that stuff. Do you still have it?
I've lost a lot of it. I have a foolproof, like 100%. I have everything saved in some way ever since the beginning of 2017. But everything before that is who knows? You know, I've got some of it. Some of it's not there. But
2017. That's pretty recent. Since last year, you've like really started to be methodical about capturing. And
I'm saying like every photo I've ever taken, every receipt from anything I've ever bought, like every piece of data I manipulate or create, like I have saved in some way that's accessible and I could find via date.
That's going to be either really good for you or really bad for you if you ever kill somebody.
Yeah, the data trail's there. You just gotta decrypt. Some stuff. So hopefully Apple has my back there. Yeah,
there's some weird shit that's going to come up. Well, thank you for doing this podcast. This has been much requested.
A lot of people have been asking.
A lot of people have been trying to make this happen because not very often do you have two minimalist filmmakers with podcasts.
We weren't sure what was going to happen when you got this much minimalism into one room.
Yeah, like I actually was going to have a sword in the middle of the table. And then we would just have to fight over it and fight to the death.
We should have like some kind of elaborate mirror set up so that like at different points in the podcast, like we switch seats or something. Like, do people even notice?
Yeah, maybe we should just do that halfway through the podcast.
I'm gonna mimic every single thing you do.
Yeah, now I'm gonna be like overly like I'm gonna be thinking about the next question I should be asking, but really you're gonna be the one asking the question because
of course
we are the same person.
Yes. Yeah. I need to be more like muscular. You're very built.
We'll go to the gym after this.
Yes.
We'll get a minimalist workout. So yeah, what do you want to talk about on this podcast? What were your expectations coming into it?
I would love to talk about minimalism and almost like the sides of minimalism that people don't talk about. What my expectations were moving forward with everything that I was doing by getting rid of things and then everything else that fell away after that. Once you get rid of things, you have to find other things to get rid of. And I think like it might also be like a problem with me. Like I feel like I'm getting rid of almost too many things and I'm obsessing over it, and there will never be an end to the amount of control I can exercise over the things in my life. So like, I don't know if that's something you felt, like the darker side of obsession over control. It's control, like for me at least, getting rid of things so that I know exactly what I can manipulate in my life and just less things to worry about, and I have complete control over the small amount of things.
I thought that very thing when I was making minimalism and talking with a lot of people, because a lot of the people that we had interviewed, a lot of the people that connected with minimalism were people that at one point didn't have any control over their lives, whether they grew up in really shitty circumstances, or they just had pursued this path by getting swept up into the kind of corporate 9-to-5 world, climbing the ladder, trying to go after success any way they could. I kind of had that suspicion and was like, is this kind of just the opposite of hoarding, where it's like there's OCD tendencies of hoarders where everything needs to be exactly as they are. And I was like, people that are inclined to be minimalism, maybe are they also falling prey to like OCD? And I actually asked that to Gail Sticchetti, who is she's written a couple books on overconsumption and hoarders. Actually, I don't know if she's actually written on overconsumption, but she's written it on like hoarding and accumulating a bunch of shit and OCD. And I asked her that question, and she didn't think that there was much of a link, like at least scientifically, at least with actual OCD as it's prescribed to people. But I still think that there's something there. There's something with control and holding on to it that is a real struggle for people who are attracted to minimalism.
Because most people just know minimalism as getting rid of things, physical things in the apartment, clothes, whatever. But it is completely stretched out to every aspect of my life, even to relationships, projects I take, even types of media that I consume and watch. Like, it kind of revolves around this idea of like Buddhism, I guess. And I don't know if you've talked about that on the show, but this idea of not wanting more and being happy with what you have is like the key to happiness, right? Am I doing Buddhism 101 right there?
I think so, maybe. Yeah. At least I think how it should be practiced. But yeah, it's funny because there was this quote, Asher Roth. I don't know if you know Asher Roth, from I Love College. He's a rapper.
Yep.
He said at one at the end of his songs was happiness isn't about getting what you want all the time. It's about loving what you have. And that really resonated with me. And I was like, it was at a time when I like needed to hear that, because I was kind of tipping into the that lifestyle culture of like, I don't know if you know, sneakerheads, and like all these friends and people that I knew had like 20, 30 pairs of sneakers.
That's where you're going.
Yeah. And I was going down that road. I had actually like maybe 15, 20 pairs of sneakers. And
too many sneakers.
Way too many sneakers. But then you think about it, and there's people that have hundreds of pairs of sneakers and shoes. And then you think about people that don't have any shoes, and you're like, how wasteful is this? And how it's just completely normal for people that have that much. And I get it. And I think that like, yeah, everybody should, decide for themselves how much is enough. But I think we can still point at people and be like, you got too much stuff. Right? Like,
yeah, it's
maybe
easy to compare it to ourselves, but it's like, who's to say what is too much or too little?
Yeah.
It goes back to your video that was like calling out people who are trying to call you out and trying to put you in a box of like, you're not a minimalist, you don't have these things or this thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people want to tell you, which is, I think, a good part of minimalism is that it actually, if I'm looking at like the silver lining, is that it starts a conversation.
Oh yeah.
Which is good. And I think that's one of the reasons that Minimalism, the film, did well, is because there were a lot of people that watched it that were like, no way. Like, these minimalists are crazy. It kind of like the same thing you look at.
And then they start to think about why they had that response. That's the key to change. Like self-reflection on your responses and your reactions. Because sometimes your reaction just comes out of nowhere and you have to have that reaction. But if you can stop and like analyze why that happened, that's where the change comes from. And that's exciting.
Yeah, because I think that's where it starts for most people, is to be like, no way, I could never do that. But really what they're saying is like, let's talk about this. This is interesting. I think for me, what's helped is having a girlfriend that is not minimalist at all. It makes you take yourself a little bit less serious than you should. We get a little bit too particular, where if we're spending too much time worrying about things and only having the right amount of things, then we're actually like failing to live up to what minimalism should be about.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. India, my girlfriend, similar. we try to have that communication, and I hope that she feels like she can kind of tell me if it's being a little too much. But I'll tell you, coming up on 2 years, longest relationship I've ever had. And it has opened my eyes to the value of commitment so much. And I hope that you have that same, feeling. But I didn't realize how much you could get out of a serious relationship, because being a minimalist, you sort of like open yourself up to all these possibilities of doing whatever, especially as a freelance filmmaker or YouTuber. Like, I could pack up and go to Thailand tomorrow, but with all these options, it's kind of limiting. So in a similar way, committing to one person and then growing that relationship over time, like long term, is amazing. Like, I'm realizing things about myself, and it's all exciting and all new. So
yeah, it definitely teaches you a lot about patience, which I think is hugely important, and that's something that crosses over to my independent, like, creator mode as well, where we want to do everything all at once right now, and like we want to be, where we're probably going to be in 5 years right now, but then knowing that, all right, I just need to like relax a little bit, enjoy this process. And that's even like, being in a relationship is making time on the weekends to actually hang out and do stuff for fun, for my life, and not exactly for achieving something or going after something.
So that's a feeling that I struggle with a lot. This idea of let's hurry as fast as we can to change and grow. Sometimes you can force growth too much. I feel like this year has been a very volatile year of growth, good things, but maybe too much sometimes. And I'm trying to read and change. And I think the girlfriend is like a voice of reason to pull back sometimes. Yeah.
Well, you can definitely see where growing too fast can negatively impact people, especially if they're not ready for it. If you look at like anybody who's very young that gets a massive audience, it definitely does things to you and changes the person that you would be, because then all of a sudden everybody starts treating you differently. Everybody wants to be connected to you, associated with you. You kind of build this bubble around you where, if you're just a regular dude or girl who's coming up and trying to make it as a filmmaker, nobody knows who you are. I think going through those struggles is very important for you to learn about like humility and self-respect and treating other people with dignity. Because not all that stuff is going to happen if everybody's just trying to hang out with you and be with you.
Mm-hmm. If a relationship starts to turn sour with someone, just cutting the cord and running away is such a dangerous, poisonous thing that I've done in the past and I've, paid for. So this idea of like I say it's all Amazon. It's all Amazon Prime, like the 2-day shipping. Like that is the cornerstone of I need it now. I want change quick. I want all the good things like as soon as possible. Like it's this mentality of now. And a lot of the past couple of months has me analyzing that, thinking about it, and trying to slow down a little bit. Yeah.
Do you place constraints on yourself in terms of those kind of purchases or the way that you interact with new things that you bring into your life?
Yeah, I think it would be a lot healthier for me to at least try and just see how it works. If I don't have Amazon Prime, if I stop buying stuff online, if I have to walk to the store to get stuff, like there's a definite balance between the convenience of, say, groceries delivered to you versus like actually going out and touching the fruit and vegetables and thinking about what you want to make. And that trickles out into every aspect of my life. Like if I want to read a book, go to a bookstore, buy it, read it in person instead of just listening to it on Audible. I don't know. It's just sometimes it's good to be able to slow down and not have things immediately, I think.
Yeah, completely. I do that with books as well, where I'm like, it's not, especially with books, where it's just, you can literally just download a book to your phone or download a book to your Kindle in 1 second. And you lose a little bit of connection of what it takes to actually write a book. Like, I feel like when you hold a book in your hands and you have to flip through the pages and like, there's almost more of a sense of accomplishment for me when I finish a physical book and you turn to the last page versus reading it on a Kindle. And I think those kinds of things help us to slow down a little bit, help us to appreciate the moment. Because if we keep just rushing to get to the next thing, or just get through this book, or just get through this job or this interview, you're not actually taking time to appreciate and enjoy the experience in the moment.
So is it natural for a minimalist to start to move towards meditation and that idea? Is that cliche, or does it make sense? Have you ever experimented with that?
With meditation?
Yeah.
Yes. I think I learned about meditation before minimalism was a thing. Minimalism kind of became popular in around 2008 to 10. That's when like the blogs took off and it really got big. When I was in college, I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that was my first kind of step into the world of meditation. And I was an atheist at the time. I still am. But that got me to open up a little bit in terms of meditating and spirituality and the present moment. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where some people come to it on their own and they realize these things. But for me, it was that book that was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, yeah, I am just caught up in my head all the time. I am always thinking. Yeah. I'm stressed out. I'm thinking, I'm anxious about something that's going to happen in the future, or I'm regretting something that happened in the past. And it's just these negative thoughts that would cycle back and forth. And then when I realized, like, in the moment, there's actually none of those things are really happening to me. There's no real threat to my life for the most part. Maybe living in the city, it's a little different when you're going home late at night. But for the most part, like, I was safe, I was protected, I had everything that I needed. So that came to me before minimalism. How about you?
Just going back to that aha moment, like, aren't those wonderful though? Like,
oh yeah,
they're usually books, podcasts, whatever, sometimes like chats with mentors, etc. Like, oh, those are like the life defining moments. And I like thinking about it. I'm almost trying to force those upon my subscribers as much as possible. You can't like write a book and just have everything in line for someone to do as they're growing up. But like, you kind of wish you could make videos to send to yourself like a year ago. And it's almost like that's kind of like an idea for my education, to like educate younger Craig, but to my subscribers, right?
I think that's such a good way to look at it, is to think about where you were at those specific times. And I think that's where, because sometimes when I put out a video, I'm very like astonished with the response that people, oh my God, this really resonated or connected with me. And for me, it's not necessarily something new, but
it's perspective.
Yeah, you realize
it's hard to step out of your perspective sometimes. It's so difficult
to
realize what the value is to people who don't think like you are.
Right. Like, yeah, that's actually Leo Babauta. He was one of my biggest inspirations early on. He writes for a blog called zenhabits.net, and also I think it's minimalist.com without any vowels. But he was like the first person that started opening my eyes up to minimalism and these kinds of ideas. And I was like, this guy is just so profound. And we got to interview him. And that was one thing that he said. He said, when he writes, he thinks about Leo from 5 years ago or 7 years ago when he was overweight, addicted to cigarettes, was working a corporate 9-to-5 job. And this is where I think having struggle in your life, having these times when you're actually feeling down and maybe at your worst, help you, because then you're able to understand other people's pain a little bit more.
Yeah. Deep
shit, man. We hop right into the deep shit.
Yeah. Of course we're going to talk about minimalism and all these things, but we talk about social media too, right? Like, are you getting tired of talking about social media?
There's a give and take where I don't think, some people may get bored of it, but at the same time, I'm like, if you hear about it once a week and that's it, it's really not that much.
It's such a part of our lives, though. As much as we hate on it, it's important. It's a thing, and we're going to talk about social media right now. I've been trying to pare it down to make it as simple as possible so that I don't have to talk about it. Does that make sense?
A little bit. So yeah, because basically, if you're talking about how you use social media, if it's incredibly simple, then you're like, well, that's it.
Are you familiar with the theory of everything? Like the idea that the universe can be explained in a simple equation?
I am now. Yeah, no, I have heard of it. Yeah.
It's fascinating to me, and I think it's like a coder mindset and kind of engineer in a sense, like trying to make things work as elegantly as possible. But I see minimalism or social media as the same thing. Like, I want it to be like, I feel like in a perfect world, I would just have a single platform that I would just post on, and that would be it. Like, I don't have to talk about it. I don't have to cross promote. I don't have different audiences. Like, I just have one audience. Because, like, we have one audience, but it's fragmented into different platforms. Like, some of the people who listen to your podcast don't even know you have a YouTube channel. Like, even if it's crazy, like, there are probably a couple people or just don't even watch YouTube, don't want to go on YouTube. But if you could just have one audience always consuming every second of everything you create, like, that's what we're going for, right?
Yeah, I think that the problem is, I don't know if it can be that simple. And if that's what you were gonna try to achieve, if you were gonna say, I'm only gonna create a YouTube channel and that's gonna be the only place you could ever hear from me or see from me, in theory, I love the simplicity of that. To me, I'm like, that's so focused, right? And you're like, you could probably grow that channel or like have such more a loyal connection with your audience and build more trust with that audience if you just had that one place to feed all your energy into. I think the downside of it is that maybe that's not the way the world works, and maybe there isn't a simple equation to explain everything, because if we did that same strategy with our personal finances, then people would be risking a lot. If you put all your money in one basket, if you said, true, I'm only going to invest in this one thing, and then it falls apart, your stock in Enron dissolves to nothing, what do you do in that situation? So in the same way, I think that we have to diversify a little bit as creators in case MySpace, crumbles, or Facebook, whatever it is, like, as cliche as that is, there's a chance that these platforms could just tweak their algorithms and all of a sudden you can't reach your audience like you used to.
I love the comparison of finance. Never thought about that. Even in the idea that you want to hedge against things that can go wrong. And yeah, having different platforms with fragmented audience is a good way to diversify that. Ooh, you're giving me some new thoughts. I've never compared social media to finance, but it does make sense.
It's not going to be new for my audience.
Oh, you've already talked, yeah.
Just a couple times, 2 or 3 times. But I do believe that that's the way that you have to take it, especially for people that are on YouTube, because I know, like, you hear it all the time. You hear a lot of big YouTubers even talk about how challenging it is to make a living on YouTube. And I think it's because a lot of them just talk about, they just see themselves as YouTubers, where if you saw yourself as a business owner, or if you took a step back and you're like, all right, how can I actually, maybe create products or create a brand, whatever, that I could, that's a little bit bigger than just making money through advertising or affiliate links.
Everything's a spectrum, but I feel like it's important to kind of always have some kind of goal to attain to. Oh, and this is even going back to like always wanting more, like never being happy.
Well, yeah, but I think that's part of the journey, or it's part of the process, right? Yeah. It's like we have to continually keep ourselves in check. And when I even think about clickbait, that's something that's very pervasive on YouTube. I really think the only way to avoid clickbait is to just think really hard about the titles that you're giving your posts and really questioning yourself and being like, is this clickbait? Am I being disingenuous? Am I actually delivering on the value of the thumbnail and the title? Sometimes we get it wrong.
Yeah, I think we can't just like make it a binary yes or no. Is this clickbait or not? Everything in a sense has clickbait. It's just because if the content was just there by itself, there would be no way to mask it. Like, people would see what it is and then they would understand the promise of what they're about to consume. But the problem is it's a funnel. Like, people can't decide what to watch by watching it. Otherwise it defeats the purpose.
It'd be watched.
So it has to be trimmed down into a single image, which is kind of crazy for video. Like, I know Google has been moving towards like like if you hover over a thumbnail on Google Chrome, it plays. But it's fascinating because like people need to decide what to watch in a millisecond. And it makes it so that you have to convince and trick people, which is sad.
Well, I think that you
don't have to.
Yeah, the key word there is trick, and I don't think you have to trick people if you're creative enough.
Yep.
And if you are tricking people, you're probably not going to build the best connection with your audience that you could.
So establishing that promise past the thumbnail is what's important, and that's for subscribers. But when I think clickbait, I think people who are not subscribers who are deciding to click on something just because they saw the image. Whereas if a subscriber knows what to expect from a Craig Adams video, like the thumbnail isn't going to affect them as much as someone who's never seen my content. So it's like, I don't know. I the more I think about clickbait, the more I see it in standard television, like movie posters. Like it's kind of everywhere.
It's everything, right? Yeah. I think it actually took like the whole BuzzFeed and the cliche clickbait titles for us to realize what it was. But it's nothing new. And I love the way that you kind of framed it as like, you have to find a way to convince somebody to watch your video. And you have to do that in a title and a thumbnail. There's no way around that at this point.
I would say every form of content has to be simplified in some way for quick discovery. Blog with a title. Instagram is pretty good. It's just the image.
I mean, we want people to watch our shit. We want people to consume the content that we're creating because we think it will help people or entertain people or it will add value to people's lives. We don't need millions of subscribers or followers. And I think that obviously you can get to a point where like, just like having enough money, you should be able to feel like, oh, I have enough subscribers. I don't need to get more. This audience,
I've got enough right now, though. Yeah. Like either of us could just go off and live simple lives, yet we continue on because there's something else we're looking for.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know. I love it. Like I love the process of coming up with creative ideas or things that might resonate with people, or I don't know. It's really hard to describe like what drives you and what makes you keep creating new shit.
Yeah. So to summarize all of this, the idea of being happy with what you have seems like what I need to be doing, but it's near impossible. It's really hard. And it's something that you kind of work towards every single day and you can't attain, which is like the idea. Like you're always working towards something and you
never
social
get there.
media,
bro. No, yeah, I don't know if you actually described it, but what's your current views of social media and how do you use it?
Yeah, going back to the idea of the equation, like I would love to just have one single place where I post my content and I paint a very authentic, true, honest, promise to my subscribers. If you watch this stuff or follow me, this is what's going to happen. I follow through with that to absolute perfection. And whoever wants to follow down that path, the door is right there. They chose to enter. So whether that's YouTube, whether that's Twitter, like it's all the same. It's all an email list in different clothing, promise and an execution. So I'm just trying to like get rid of things until I kind of find a good groove. But hey, like I'm not even a filmmaker by heart. Like I could do whatever. People ask me what I want to do. I just want to authentically express myself. I just want to share what I want to share and be honest with it.
How do we remove any facade, any fakeness? With podcasting, it's easier because there's only so long you can fake it in a long form conversation. You would just kill yourself if you were just being this. Have sometimes people like go on TV and put this like, hey, like this fake personality. Both newscasters and if you're being interviewed, you tend to just have this very energetic, personable state of being. But then when you're on a podcast, you're like, you just have to let that shit go and just.
But some people have a character that they can even put on during podcasts. It goes back to that promise and execution again. Like, do I promise to be the real Craig Adams on camera for this episode? Like, you don't know. Like, if I make that promise and if people think that I'm ingenuous and putting on some kind of show, like, they're not going to be happy. They're not going to want to follow through with that, continue that path.
How does that show up in your work that you create in terms of it being authentic? Like,
oh, yeah.
Has it always been there for you?
Yeah, that comes at a weird intersection with inspiration because we copy what we see, and it's easier to do what we know has already been successful than to take a risk with something brand new and original. I vlog like Casey. I'm influenced by my New York City friends. I watch PewDiePie and stuff like that. So like some of my jokes are the same as his, and it's just like, so that's also been another avenue I've been fascinated with. Like what would happen if I just didn't watch anything? Like what inspiration can I pull from non-YouTube, non-TV, non-movie, whatever?
Wouldn't it come from somewhere? This kind of goes to almost a discussion of free will, which I don't want to get into, but it's like we are so...
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I can't, like, I'll hear Sam Harris talking about free will, and I'm like, I get it, but
Yeah,
I don't, at the same time, I don't get it, dude. But I understand the fact that we have so many influences on our lives, and we have so little control of a lot of what comes into our life, the people we bump into on the street, the messages that we get. We do have control over our social media feeds and whatnot. But is that a bad thing, to be influenced and inspired by other people?
No. The problem is when you copy because it's safe. If you can watch everyone and be friends and consume everything, but then also not be afraid to share what you genuinely want to share, that's it. You know, that's what we're going for. But the reason people are so afraid to like public speak, it's like looking stupid in front of other people and like acting like you don't know what you're talking about or doing. If I can absorb a lot of content and then still be what I want to be, that's what I'm looking for, but it's really difficult.
I think you hit on it with the fact that people, especially when you're just starting out, you kind of just want to take that safe route.
It's safe, yeah.
You just want to do what's guaranteed to be successful, because it's very scary. It's a scary thing to put yourself out there, to do something that's maybe not seen as legitimate by a lot of people, your parents probably, by some of your friends who have jobs, like real jobs. I've never had a real job. And in the beginning, it's a little bit tough because people are like, well, what are you doing? And now it's becoming more popular to like follow an untraditional path, to be a freelancer. But still, until you actually are doing well, it's kind of tough to get through all the kind of doubt and a little bit of the shade that some people will throw at you.
Yeah. And then there's a sense of security when it comes to you start to make a little bit of money, get a little bit of followers, even though you're copying MKBHD and doing tech reviews of everything that you get a hold of. You can copy Gary Vee, you can copy Casey and have some kind of success. It's just like, what do you want? Like, do you want to go... It all comes down to what you want. Like, you can do something completely original and it's just more of a long-term thing rather than short-term, like as far as success, whatever that means.
Right. It's like, what are you trying to get out of it?
Yeah.
What are you looking for? And
it's based on someone else and not yourself.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like the image. They get a feeling when they watch a Gary Vaynerchuk video, they get this jolt of inspiration and they think, I want to do that because that's what it feels like to do that. But I guarantee, like, if you follow Gary Vee around for a day, one day, you'd be like, I don't want to do that. Like, because the dude probably gets 4 hours of sleep a night. He's just working nonstop. I don't think most people would actually want that life. And I think people should genuinely think about, like, is that what you want? Like, do you actually want to work 18 to 20 hours a day? You know, do you want to have a balanced life?
And even if you do get it, most people aren't happy even then. Like, I don't want to go there, but celebrity suicides and just like everything, this idea of like being popular and famous and a celebrity is like the pinnacle of everything, but it's absolutely not. So it's having a backfire. I think people are starting to wake up. I love the public's trending interest in minimalism and Buddhism and just like actually caring about what they're consuming. And I think we're kind of waking up a little bit in that regard, like realizing that fame and fortune isn't the best, but hey, Fortnite is popular, so what's it matter?
Yeah.
Right?
No, you see, honestly, like Tom Shadyac was the one that got me first interested in thinking about minimalism. He directed a lot of old Jim Carrey movies, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Are we gonna talk about Jim Carrey going full Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey, yeah, like yeah. I think that they probably inspired each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it was such a radical notion because yeah, you've heard about like some famous people that were depressed or whatever, and you're just like, oh, that's just like a fluke. Like, of course, like most other famous people or rich people are happy. And then seeing a guy like Tom Shadyac who got everything that he was supposed to have, got everything he was supposed to want, and then take a step back, move into this mansion and be like, wait a minute, this is actually not what I want at all. This doesn't connect with me, resonate with me. And then getting rid of it all, I was like, what? you could do that. You could just get rid of your shit. Like, you don't need, because it felt like just that was the factory setting that I was given, was like, you have to just accumulate and get all this stuff before you can get happy. And that's why I think a lot of people are still running on that. Then to realize, oh, like maybe I was kind of avoiding the actual difficult questions that I should have been asking during that time.
Yep. I'm terrified of getting to that point, and we all have our fears. We all have our like what ifs, and what I'm doing right now is kind of to prevent from getting to a point where I would be unhappy with fame and fortune and money. So I think we're on the same page as that. Like, you
don't want to be famous. Would you want it? Like,
I don't want to just get those things for the sake of fame and fortune and money, because we see it. Like, people aren't happy even though they have the things. So it's like, what's the real root of happiness? And it's people, it's friends and family relationships, and having, being able to express what you want to share. And what is happiness?
Yeah. And like, even, I mean, being on YouTube, there's that potential where you have a lot of people like Casey Neistat who can't go out in public without being yelled or screamed at, and like people running over to try to rip off a piece of their t-shirt. That doesn't seem like a great world to live in, right?
No, it doesn't. No. And I've thought about that. Like, as much as I love interacting with my community, would there ever be a point at which where I turn off the Instagram messages, where I just completely shut off, to the point where what makes me happy is creating the content and just living the life that I want, and like hearing the feedback, hearing the community, engaging with the community is it starts to become a negative thing. Do you think there might be a tipping point when, we were talking about in-person like celebrity, but even it just gets to be too much, and I even find myself like seeing that on Twitter. Like, I'm kind of tired of just being always in the mix and hearing all of the opinions, and I don't know. And it's also a balance of like pulling like your email list and asking for suggestions about what you want, but then to what degree should you follow their suggestions? Like, is it better to just do what you want regardless of what they say?
Yeah, I think that in terms of, well, you have some people too who will say, like, now I know some people, they don't interact with their audience, they don't reply to every comment on YouTube, but I'm in the comment section, I'm replying to everybody because you know me, that's who I am. I'm just a guy for the people. And then I'm like, but like, yeah, I get it. No, I get it. That's amazing that you're taking that time and energy to like, but then for some of it, it's just to say that you can say that, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be the guy that replies to every comment.
Yes.
But then there's also people like us who are like, where we can have these conversations though on the podcast, and that's part of our content that we're actually putting out there, is like, you have to be mindful of those things. And if like your audience grows to a size where you get 100 DMs after one post, you can't go through and reply to every single person and still have time to create the content you want to create.
Especially if you're setting the expectation that you will see it and answer,
I could see that being like almost like a trap where that's one thing that I try to articulate, where I'm like, hey, listen, I will try to reply to as many as I can. But for me, that usually means I dedicate a certain amount of time every day to do that, whether it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And then I have to stop at a certain point, right?
But it all comes down to what you want, and then having a clear path to that, and not just bullshitting along the way. I think it's better to have a plan and to like stick to your values. Honestly, I do see a point at which, even though I built a community with Wedding Film School and I'm kind of replicating it with the Craig Adams brand with a different audience, I would rather just go on trips and shoot videos and talk to people and just share what I want, and not be as much of a part of the community, I guess, even if that sounds weird and bad. I don't know.
There's almost like a false sense of community in some ways.
Yeah.
Like there definitely is. Like, if you have like forums and you can like create ways in which people can interact with each other or meet up. But at the same time, like, we can't pretend like that's real community in person. I think there's a difference between an online community and then trying to foster that same kind of community that you would have with family and friends.
And I'll tell you though, I don't know if you mess around with Patreon at all. That is starting to become Well, someone in my situation who is accessible to the public and sets the expectation that I can get back to you, answer questions, and help you and become a mentor in some regard online. I'm using Patreon to reach out and monetize my time and attention. And I feel like that's the beginning of the wrong slope.
You think so?
Yeah, it seems short term make money to me right now. I'm trying to think of the long term, and the more I think about the long term of where that would go if I did it for 2 years straight hardcore, it'd probably be the wrong path. So I'm thinking about it. I also went through the same thought as in-person workshops and even courses and stuff like that. I think, I try to think about where it would be 2 or 3 years from now if I dedicate all my time and attention to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what ways do you monetize your content now?
Yeah, mainly affiliate links, which is just happening. Whoever wants. I think it's beautiful, but then again, I realize how little amount of money I'm making compared to the people on the other end. So in a perfect world, I'd have my own business, repping my own product, whatever that is. Right now, it's time and attention and knowledge, but down the road, it should be something else. In a perfect world, I would just invest in assets, whether it's real estate, stocks, and then just share what I want. And that money is just extra fluff. I would love to not have to worry about making money with content. I think that's something I'm trying to work towards.
Yeah. The problem is when you're making content all the time, most of your time and energy goes into making content, and it's not easy to monetize it. It's not easy to just say, here, pay for these videos, because people aren't willing to pay for a YouTube video. They're only willing to sit through an ad. They're not willing to, pay for a podcast. That's just the way that our economy has worked out for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. So I could see it being very challenging. You have to work a lot harder to be able to actually produce consistent content every week, but then also to be able to say, oh, I also need to dedicate this time to making money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we all do it. We do the ads for companies we don't care about. We rep products sometimes. We try to stay true to producing 100% what I want to create, but like you said, we have to make money. But I think it's more important to focus on where I'm trying to head towards, and that's definitely not worrying about money when it comes to the content I create. Who knows what it's going to be in 5 years? It's going to be like a virtual reality shindig.
Yeah.
I'll just a little bubble around my head. Hey, who wants to chat in my bubble?
Yeah. How do you feel about advertising? Do you have your videos are monetized?
Yeah. I monetize. I think YouTube was cool for a little bit, but I think the advertising model is getting a little stale. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of competitors to the gates. I think YouTube has only one thing going for it right now, and that's Google search. And that is going the way of Craigslist in the way that it's being broken up. So when I want to shop for something, I don't go to google.com. I go to Amazon, type it in that search bar. If I want to watch a video, I go to YouTube, which is Google, but I still am segmenting up where I do my search. And I think that's the first sign that Google's definitely got some competition on its end. Yeah. Right,
where like we were talking about, a lot of the things that we think are going to stay the same forever start to change. And yeah, I do see a little bit of that. It's starting to be a little bit more siloed.
Honestly, I don't care. The more that you can take an audience to wherever you go, the better. People care about the number. How many followers do you have? I don't care about that. How much of your audience will actually do what you say? That's a more impressive metric to me. So even walking around LA talking to people, I've had 3 or 4 people legit to my face ask me, how many YouTube subs do you have, when they ask me what I do. I'm like,
really?
What? This is such an LA thing. Are you seriously asking that?
Yeah.
I think it's weird coming from New York, at least. I don't know.
Yeah. You should have, I don't know, maybe some kind of sign that has the number on it, and then you just hit them with it.
Dude, if you're talking to me for the first time, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's have a genuine at least 10 seconds of conversation before we try to figure out what we can get from each other.
Yeah. I think people, for whatever reason, we we're so attracted to like the number, how big your subscribers are. Are you an influencer?
It's the thumbnail of the content. Like, it's the quickest way people can get a sense of like what they're about to walk into.
Where you are on the hierarchy too. And like, you'll be like, well, somebody asked us recently, like, what would it take to collaborate with you on a video? And I think about that sometimes. And I would think about that early on when I didn't have an audience. And I'm like, how could I get somebody who has a big audience to come on my podcast, because there's nothing in it for them. But then when I got to that position, when I had a decent amount of subscribers, I was like, it didn't change where I was like, oh, now I will only work with people that have X number of subscribers. It was, I will only work with people that I respect. I respect their work. I am impressed by what they do. Maybe they do something that I couldn't do, or something that I'm like, oh, wow, I could learn something from them. There's so many different ways in which I would also, do I have the time to do it? But like, there are so many different reasons why I would collaborate with somebody, and almost none of them have to do with like how large their audience is.
But even that goes back to the promise you made to your subscribers that you're only going to invite guests that are honest and align with the values that you're trying to make with the show. Like, as much as we don't say it, everything is selfish, I think. Everything comes back to like, what am I going to get in some regard? The more you can get away from that and feel comfortable and safe, like with friends and families, with not expecting something back, the better the relationship. But I still think there's no selfish act ever. So
there's no selfish act or selfless.
No selfless act ever.
Yeah, maybe. But I would say what I actually enjoy the most, what excites me the most about like doing a podcast and having an audience, is now I feel like I can actually help out a little bit. Like, I mean, I don't have like a huge audience, but like feel like I can give back to, in the past, I felt like every time I had a guest on the show, they were doing me a favor. And like, I still do. I still believe that. Like, they're like you're doing me a solid to come on my show, to spend time, to hang out, have a conversation. We're creating a piece of content together. But I still feel like now I can be like, well, there's going to be people that listen to this that be like, oh, cool, I want to check out this guy's YouTube channel, or I want to read their book. And now I feel like it's more mutual. And like, while it's not completely selfless, I feel better about kind of a mutual exchange.
Talk about power dynamic.
Yeah, where, I mean, you don't feel good when you feel like you're just always trying to get something from somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's manipulation versus inspiration. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know.
Yeah, go.
Yeah,
Riff.
like that's everything. That's good leaders. That's good everything. Like, it goes back to clickbait. It's authenticity. It comes back to like satisfying that promise. I just don't respect manipulators. Yeah, and I think, yeah, it goes into everything. It's like, you don't want a person who's manipulating on your show, or you don't want to feel like a manipulator yourself.
Right.
You don't want to use other people.
How does that influence your work? Like, when did you start to think about like kind of ethics and morals and the kind of person you wanted to be and the content you wanted to create?
It's fascinating to step out of the perspective I am now. And 1 year ago, completely different person. I didn't care about these things. I was just going for the money. Like, I was like, oh, I just want 10,000 subs, like that kind of stuff. But you have those moments of realization, those beautiful aha moments. And I'm sure that in a year, like, the things that I worry about right now are going to seem even more selfish. Like you should just always realize that it's a progression, and we don't know what we're doing right now.
Yeah. That's one of the great things about having success or getting what you want, is that you realize that it's not actually what you wanted, or it's not what's going to make you happy. Mm-hmm. That success and happiness are two different things.
Yeah. Food is good, though. Food makes me happy. Food's pretty pure.
Food's always good. Mm-hmm. Food. Let's talk about food. I honestly, yeah. I ate sushi for the first time when I was like 21 or 22.
Same.
I had a very sheltered upbringing.
College, yep.
Yeah, it was pasta every day growing up. Butter and pasta.
Oh yeah.
Ketchup and pasta. My family's Olive Garden Italian. Like, they're not like real Italian.
Same.
It's just a couple cultures, like a couple generations removed from real bolognese. Yeah. But once I got into food, I was like, oh, that's what travel's about too. Travel's about food. Yeah, it's about what you see. You see a cool mountain.
Life is
But
about food.
It is. I mean, honestly, like it's. Maybe we should start a cooking show. Like, when did you start getting interested in food?
I was the same. Pasta, butter, all that goodness. I didn't know what organic meant. I didn't care about nutrition. In college, I got a little fat. I had avocado for the first time. I had sushi for the first time in college. And like most things, I just keep learning about it, and me caring about it myself is what actually makes the change, instead of like going to college, learning about nutrition or whatever. Yeah, it's just getting back to like what is going to make me the best version of me. And it's fascinating, especially more that I do running and working out. I see how food affects me long term. And I will do a better run and feel better and have a better workout if I have a good meal like a week or two before. Like, it's interesting to test yourself and see the differences. Like, you can feel a Big Mac in your body sometimes, like down the road.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
It stays with you. It's
Yeah.
like haunts your dreams.
Yeah.
Have you always found it easy to build healthy habits?
No. You know, I'm doing the NutriBullet thing. I think that's fun. It has to be fun to like to change the habit, right? You got a blender, you do the blending thing, right?
That's actually, yeah. And another thing about that is like when you purchase something expensive like a Vitamix, I think it was $500 blender.
Gotta use
It's like 3 horsepower, 4 horsepower. I didn't have the money. I mean, I had money, but like I was still in debt at the time. It wasn't like I was doing really well, and it was a lot of money for me to drop on a appliance. But it got me to want to make it every day. I'm like, I'm going to invest in this, and I'm going to use this thing every week. And even to this day, I make like anywhere from 3 to 6 smoothies a week. A lot of greens. That's how I get most of my good veggies and nutrition. It's just easier for me. I don't know if it's fun. I don't. You have fun with your blender?
Well, this was the first time I was buying groceries. Like,
Yeah.
Buying whole ingredients and just understanding how that affected my body and just feeling good about the food I was eating. It had a profound positive impact in my life to know what I was eating and to have some kind of control over that, I guess.
There are also like keystone habits, like 1 or 2 habits that you can change in your life that will have a domino effect and ripple throughout other parts of your life. For me, it was exercise and going to the gym. It's like once I did that, I was more likely to come home, feel better about myself, eat a better diet, get to bed at the right time, wake up early. Like it kind of, and I think that's, a lot of people are overwhelmed with habit change and changing their diet, and like they get really inspired and motivated, and they're like, I want to change everything about my life. I'm going to turn it around starting today. And they just are focused in 8 different directions at once. But if you can actually focus on just one of those things, a lot of times it's going to have a ripple effect.
It goes back to changing too quickly. You know, sometimes you got to slow down to actually make that change and make a new habit. It's tough.
How do you feel about like people co-opting like brands, companies, now that minimalism is like a part of culture and pop culture, people actually using minimalism to sell shit?
Yeah. Dude, people are going to use everything to make money. It goes back to that clickbait. Like what brands? I'm trying to think of minimalism. Like watches and stuff like that. Like I know Moment. I don't know. It's like a fashion thing.
It's the aesthetic. They're selling the aesthetic, but then using the lifestyle as kind of a trigger.
Yeah. We're gonna get that regardless of with everything. But it just makes the people who are authentic stand out a bit more, I guess. So it's just a part of the process. Yeah.
I guess if people are talking about it, it's not a bad thing. You just have to know the difference between the fake version, the knockoff version, and the real thing, which always isn't, it's not so straightforward sometimes, especially if you're just learning about it for the first time.
Yeah. Also comparison, like other people can do whatever they want. Yeah. So I have a question.
Yeah.
For the podcast. Are you thinking about going eventually to an audience? Would that ever be a thing that you would think
Live?
about? Yeah.
Yeah,
live or in person, because like that's kind of what the minimalists do.
What do you mean? So like doing like in front of an audience, or like actually just go to other people's houses?
Yeah. To what degree would we have 50 people watching this?
That would be cool. Having an audience period is a new thing for me, online or in person. I don't think I've yet to meet like a listener in person at this point. Okay. But it would be, yeah, I mean, I would definitely be interested in that. I think that there's a balance, and I think that Josh and Ryan from The Minimalists, like, they have an amazing podcast, and what they've found is that they've done a ton of touring, and like they'll have a different guest in each city, but those episodes get kind of repetitive. They're not as thought out as the ones that they do in the studio. Therefore, like they did a poll, they reached out, and like it was something like 80 to 90% of people were like preferred the in studio session versus like the live events. So that might say that it just needs to be in moderation. It just needs to be a little bit thoughtful, and like, oh, we'll do maybe a couple of live shows, which could be fun. I like the idea of like almost performing in front of an audience and having that energy there to balance back and forth. I think I would like it better if it was more of not a theater, not that I could fill out a theater, but it was more of like a intimate, like small space where, like you said, you have 25 to 50 people. Yeah. Where it feels, yeah. I mean, imagine if my apartment was big enough, but to have like a group of people come over, I feel like that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, a way to make the studio space, like they were comparing which is better, studio versus audience, but just to have an audience for the studio, like to be able to not have any kind of change to the podcast recording, but then also add people to it is kind of the goal.
Do you like that? Is that where you want to go with yours?
Hey, everyone has their own direction. I'm just curious about yours. Obviously there's ways to scale that and make more money and grow influence, but like, are there other reasons why you'd want to go down that path? Like, what are the benefits of adding in-person feedback in any sense? Or, it just...
That's probably the most interesting thought to me, is just like, how would that actually change the dynamic of the show? I don't know if it would actually be a good thing in terms of the actual conversations that we have. Like, this conversation wouldn't feel as natural, as comfortable if there was 50 people watching us. Yeah. You would almost, like we were saying before, where like you have to almost put on a persona, because like you do have to change yourself subtly if you're actually trying to engage in an audience in person. And I think one of the great things about podcasts is that you can have intimate conversations. You can also say things that could be edited out later if, like, for whatever reason I say something that maybe, or you share something that you're like, yeah, I'd rather it not be out there. I think it gives the opportunity for people to let their guards down a little bit more. I don't think I personally would. I would maybe do a couple of them just for fun, maybe like certain milestones and stuff. But I think the direction that I would head with it would be just to eventually create a space in my home. I love working from home. I love being able to have the podcast at home, but being able to almost create like a studio in my house where I could shoot videos and I could do podcasts. But I don't see an audience playing a part in that. Yeah, for me.
Yeah, it's also what other people have done before. So that's why it's even an idea in my mind. Like, even talking to Sarah Dici in New York City, we've been talking about workshops and in-person experiences and why we would even go down that route. What's the benefit other than just more money? It's weird. Like, we can talk about workshops too. I know you're thinking about doing a course, but have you ever thought about doing like an in-person workshop? Like,
yeah, and this, I guess what I think about in that stuff, it's more of like, I am business minded because I grew a freelance business. It really didn't have anything to do with minimalism. That was just a personal thing for me, and I really enjoyed that prospect. And like, I've never really been into like reading about filmmaking, and I've never been like a film junkie. I was always more into like Tim Ferriss and entrepreneurial type books. So I have thought about that. And for me, I would want to do, I would do like workshops in person, but I would have it filmed, and I would do it like really high quality. I would rent out a beautiful space, have 3 filmmakers, an audio engineer. I have like a kind of a vision of where this could go. I'm starting out small with just like a really simple course that I'm building. But then to do it like that, and then even have like other people like you come to teach certain things, and we could do breakaway sessions, and then think about who you would have as the people that would be working on their craft. Because then you could package that up, and then it's not just an in-person workshop. It's something that you could then turn into a course and sell that.
Or all of that could even just be produced and online. Like the more that I've been starting to do in-person workshops and speak at events, the more I've realized that I'm just much better at convincing people of things and teaching things when I can think, plan, script, shoot, edit, deliver. Like, but if I'm in person, like, hey, let's learn about this thing, I don't know what I'm doing because I'm not practiced in public speaking. I'm not practiced in doing this real time in front of people. So like, what is to be gained from having all the people in person interacting? So like, those are the thoughts in my mind, because I'm sure like I could do it and make more money, but could I have more of a reach and have more fun if I just shot it and edited and uploaded it for free on YouTube? Like, what's to be gained?
I think visually how I would do it, it would be, I don't know, I almost want to make a movie out of it, right? And like, for me, that's having the reaction and being able to communicate with people, it almost feels like a documentary. You can do like
performance.
Packing up your bag and heading over to the venue versus like just sitting down in front of your camera in your apartment. It's like you're going somewhere, you're creating an experience, which I think to me, like it may not work for everybody, but for me, I'm kind of attracted to that idea.
Yeah, because when I think about ways to make more money, to scale, to just do more stuff and like be able to even hire people to help, like in-person workshops, presentations and stuff like that is a direction to go. But like, I don't know, it's just something about it really messes with me. So
you don't like it? My
thought is why, like, because I've been to workshops and seen speakers, and it's tragic when you see like people falling asleep in the audience or like just, I don't know, that messes with my mind. But I want things to be fun. So like, what if I just did meetups for free? Like if people just like met up and we went rock climbing or hiking, or we played golf, or like, I don't know, just,
that's fun.
Just leave the education completely out of it, because some of the best moments of aha that I've had are in-person conversations at dinner or just hanging out, like drinking coffee. It's not like I'm going to sit down with my notes and learn this thing, but that's me. I don't learn from lecture. So maybe I need to step out of that, because some people do learn from lecture and like being told what to do, right?
You have to fit your own style. Mango Street has the same thing, where they are very thoughtful about how they script and put a video together. And they're like, they don't love doing on-camera stuff, but they will from time to time, but they'll make sure that they think it through.
Yeah. So Twitch, same thing, performance, in-person workshops, presentations. It's just a different ballgame, and I think it's the natural progression for YouTubers to try to do in person. But I'm really thinking against it. We'll see. I don't know.
What advice do you give to people who are trying to build an audience on YouTube?
Yeah, always be mindset. That first hurdle is the originality. I'd say that's the biggest thing that I try to preach. Not even to like just do original things, like do something no one's ever seen, but just be mindful of how much you're influenced, and are you taking risks. It goes back to like school. Like they don't teach you in school, there's no like course for healthy risk taking, but everything is risky. Like there's an element of risk to everything. And you can even compare it to finance. Like everything has risk. You just have to be able to hedge against that risk and understand how much of the risk it is. And you can't put all your chips into one basket, because it's more risky than not. So
And it's more risky to not take a chance, to not do something different. If you're just doing what everybody else is doing, you're never going to stand out.
It's 99% of the population just doing enough to go by. Like it's the fear of messing up and failing that is keeping everyone in line.
That didn't affect you, or did you have some of those doubts when you first got on YouTube?
Yeah, I was a standard kid in public school. I did all the wrong things, but I've luckily been able to step outside myself and upgrade and scale and have those aha moments. like we talked about, 5 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, wow, what an idiot. Didn't know.
But that actually means that you're growing. It means that, and that's what I continually do. Like every 2 years you look back and you're like, I can't believe somebody paid me to make that video. I can't believe I was saying those things.
Yeah.
And that's part of it,
Yeah. So going forward, trying to speed up those aha moments with people who follow me is a promise that I'm trying to keep with my content. I'm fascinated with the travel. I love experiencing new things. Like I said, authentic expression, but then also just teaching people how to be good creators, how to be good travelers, because I've done both of those things poorly before. And I just want people to be off better than when I was their age. So it always comes back to that. I just want to like help young Craig.
Yeah.
And through that selfish act, I'm helping others.
Yeah. And I think to also inspire people to be good people.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of shitty people.
Yes.
There's a lot of shitty YouTubers.
Yes.
There's a lot of
manipulators.
And that's not the world we want to live in. We want to live in a world where like you treat other people with respect. You care about other people. You treat people the same no matter what they look like or how many subscribers they have. And those are the kind of values that get lost with certain people.
I feel some guilt.
Yeah.
I went to Tokyo and shot my Tokyo super vlog the same week that Logan Paul went.
Was it really?
Yeah, same week. Yeah.
It was that long ago that you shot that video? 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember seeing it. It was.
Yep.
I thought it was a couple months ago.
So probably one of my most successful pieces of content ever. For a week, I traveled and was spoiled by the Japanese government, and I just had one goal, and that was to create a dope video. Ended up being 40 minutes long. And honestly, it's pretty similar to most of the other travel vlogs I've done, but just because of that Logan Paul, I don't want to mess those up. Logan Paul fiasco, that video got a huge bump in trending, and a lot more people saw it than should have.
Oh, is that why it took off?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean, it's pretty cool that people were able to see that, because it was, I mean...
Half the comments were, I'm glad you're not him.
But I mean, it's kind of interesting though, the fact that those happen at the same time. It just shows you, and maybe you kind of exposed who I was talking about. But like, there is a difference in the kind of content you create, and if you're just focused on views and shocking and just saying something because it's like it's outrageous, then eventually that's going to bite you in the ass.
Oh yeah, it all comes back around. Sometimes it takes some time for people to realize that, but yeah.
Was it Logan Paul? Or whoever, one of these Pauls, but you didn't.
Wow.
You were the first person that informed me on. It was on your podcast. People can go back and listen to that episode we did together. You were saying something Paul, and I was like, there was a brief pause, and you're like, oh, you don't know who that is?
Yeah.
And then, but now I know. Now I know who he is.
Yeah.
They both are. I kind of know who they are. I saw a couple rap videos they made.
Yeah, good and bad to compare ourselves, but I have found myself trying to not travel like that, and a lot of so I don't know if you know Drift Mag, coffee magazine, and then Serial, which is like a travel magazine. Fascinated with the idea of how to travel well, and I think coffee is a wonderful, food. Travel is food. And I think that's one of the best ways to authentically start to talk to the people and care about the things and not use a country and the people. Because I feel like when people travel, they just want to go to the place where they saw that cool Instagram photo that got a couple thousand likes and then replicate that because they saw that success and then move on. And I feel like that's using a country. That's like not traveling. That's not caring.
R.I.P. Anthony Bourdain, dude. Like, fuck if that didn't
that hit.
affect me.
Yeah,
because I mean, I think he's an inspiration for filmmakers, travelers, people interested in food, like all those things. And he was the dude that did it.
Yeah.
Talk about authentic, like no bullshit. He would tell it like it is. And yeah, man, it's tough because but he's left behind an amazing legacy. And like, if anybody is looking to find themselves or that are interested in travel or food, like he's a guy that can open you up to how you should be interacting with other cultures and the world around you.
Yeah, I really looked up to him, and I'm glad that it's kind of opening up that dialogue a bit more about celebrity and suicide prevention and just like talking about depression. But yeah, authentic expression, traveling well, and just respecting people, especially when you're in another country.
Yeah, man.
What a textbook example of how to not act in a country.
You're this dude? Yeah, Logan. Yeah.
Man, fuck.
It's about as bad as it gets. But I mean, he paid for it, you know?
Yeah. I think he's learned some kind of lesson.
He's such a...
He better have.
He's a total meathead, isn't he?
I just love looking at the cameras.
He's a meathead.
Yeah.
He's I mean, it's cool. I have plenty of friends from high school that are bros that I'll hang out with them and have a beer, and they're, you know, I enjoy hanging out with them. Maybe they shouldn't have such a big following.
But hey, I've never met the guy. I've only seen the thumbnail of that YouTube video. You know, I haven't really dug into the content of who his character is, so I'm judging him from a quick Vine.
Yeah. I haven't seen that. Besides the rap videos, I haven't seen much. Okay, so talk about social media.
Let's do it.
I took a photo of you and posted on Twitter. I got 20 notifications.
Oh boy.
Let's see what people are saying.
It caps off at 20, doesn't it?
It sure does.
It could be
phone, I think.
Infinite.
I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it's just like a plus. Let's see. How do you like your coffee?
The coffee's good. I'm trying to be mindful of like sipping sounds. I know what it's like. You don't do any like audio editing, so it is what it is. I don't want to put that into your podcast.
That's good. I do a little bit of editing. What do you mean audio editing? Like cutting things out?
Yeah, like if there's a...
Oh, right. Yeah. That's right. I don't think that actually didn't make any sound.
Okay. I just bashed my nose on the microphone for people who don't understand what I just did.
What's your favorite fiction book? This is Carl.
Ooh, yeah. Speaker for the Dead is one that stands out. Like I've read all the classics of Fiction. Wait, fiction is like make-believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to
fake stuff.
Yeah, I'm a sci-fi guy. I'm fascinated with what people think the future is going to look like because it says a lot about how we act and think right now. It's like the reverse art. But Speaker for the Dead like talks about aliens and what it would be like to actually try to communicate for the first time with aliens, and it's in the Orson Scott Card Ender series. So if you read or watch that movie, it kind of progresses along that, and AI like helping the main character is like this little jewel in his ear that like helps him with everything, but no one helps is fascinating to me. Yeah, I'm a nerd like that, but I'm fascinated with what the future is going to be like.
I love fiction books because it definitely pulls you out, and like in a way, it gets you to like not be so focused on
escape.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can actually be in the moment and enjoy a good book, and it allows you to use your imagination.
There's good and bad escape, though. You know,
I think there is. Yeah, you're completely right.
Phone games, bad escape.
Bad escape. When your eyes are like feel like they're melting when you're done with it. Bad escape.
But reading on okay, so it goes back to the subway. Like I see people playing games, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like that. But here I am reading a book or listening to a podcast. Kind of escape from reality, but better. Well,
I think there is like junk food, right? I mean, if you were eating like sushi, like really good sushi on the subway versus somebody who's like tearing into a Big Mac, I think there's a difference in how you feel a week, 2 weeks after, or however long after. Yep. There's definitely a difference. This is Zach Jar. He said, Craig once said that his job is in links. Is it still?
Yeah, links are, I'm not making that much compared to once you do links for long enough, you start to realize where the real money is. And that's like Amazon. I would love, like, they're making a lot more money than the people posting and selling things as third-party sellers on Amazon. And then at the bottom of the barrel are the influencers trying to get people to buy those things. So like links are cool, but I guarantee you in a year's time, you're probably not going to see them. Like I'm definitely going to get away from them, and it's not going to be a part of my content for sure.
Why don't you like the links now?
Just because it's...
This is affiliate links we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a difference between convincing people to buy something based on the content they watch, and then there's also the healthy links, I think, which is, here are the tools I use to create the things I'm creating, and if you want to be like me, buy these things. But even that is like pushing things as the solution to being me. Like, the tools are a part of it, but I still feel like it's a cop-out. So that's been one thing that I've backtracked a little bit. Like, buy this camera and you'll make beautiful films. Like,
in terms of the money, if you sold, if somebody bought $1,000 camera from a link that you went to, how much do you make from that?
so on Amazon, it's 4% in the camera category.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
to backtrack,
Different categories.
Amazon allows you to sign up for a program where you create links to items, and depending on the category of the item, you make a commission 4 to 10% off of whatever people buy through that click.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where, like, dude, I've probably sold a lot of J. Crew t-shirts. Like, because so many people, what t-shirt? All right, whatever. I'll tell you what t-shirt it is. Part of me is like, it'd be cool to just, like, because if you gave them an affiliate link instead, I would make money from that. I don't think ethically that's a bad thing. You have to let people know when it's an affiliate link or not legally. And I think ethically you should as well.
I think that's a gray area, though.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And I think in the future, people are going to start to realize how much affiliate marketing is saturated in everything. I don't think people make a purchase without being like, everything is influenced by something. So like me seeing this mug right here has influenced my mind to thinking that black coffee mugs are kind of cool. Maybe I should buy that. Should you get half a cent for this?
Right. For that recommendation.
This
it is
analog click right here.
It is a gray area. We live in a gray world. That's depressing.
I was just scared that we were both going to show up in black shirts, but you're wearing the dark gray right now.
Mine's a charcoal.
Yes.
So that's good. We did open up with this, but I wonder if there's a specific thing that you can point to. Josh Bain says, has there been a point where you thought you went too far with minimalism? So was there a time or a thing or a moment where you're like, maybe I'm overthinking this?
I like the idea that you can get rid of things and then rebuy it if you feel like it's a mistake. Sometimes it's the better process to get rid of it all and then to get back what you actually want, instead of the opposite direction of having everything and then slowly getting rid of things. So I've gotten rid of microphones and then rebought them. My computer speakers that I don't have right now, I bought, sold, and now I've sold. So it's the third time I've had these exact same speakers, and I've definitely lost money through this used sale. That may be going too far as like buying things for the environment. I don't know. But it's just bad when it's just bad because I post publicly about everything. So like people hate on it. It's like, Craig, didn't you have that before? But even that is like, that should just hit me and bounce off. Like I shouldn't care. So,
well, no, I do the same thing where sometimes I don't see that as taking minimalism too far. I just see that as like part of the process is like, and knowing it actually makes you stress out less about the things you're buying. So like, well, I could always sell it. Oh, I could always get it. I could always, buy it again if I want it down the road. And I do that from time to time. And especially, as filmmakers, we have lots of gear, and there's certain things that we maybe think we need now. Eventually we decide we don't need it. And then 2 years down the road, we're like, oh, actually, you know what? That tripod was pretty cool. Or that Manfrotto, stand was pretty sweet. So it's always a process.
Yeah.
Let's see here. More questions.
But is there a time when I'm just like sitting in a white room by myself with nothing? No,
that's lame. It's a lame way to live.
It's no color in that life.
No offense, but that's lame. We can judge people. What percentage of your uploads are purely for monetary reasons versus uploads that you genuinely wanted to do? Can you solely do passion projects 100% of the time? That's from Destin. He's an aspiring pirate.
Yeah, we all want to be rich, but it's just not possible. We were just talking about this. We're not where we want to be. It's good to have goals because it focuses where we're heading in the direction. But right now, I'm still uploading content that I think are going to get clicks or extend my reach. I upload content because I think it'll make me more money than others. In the future, I'd like to get away from that. But yeah, I've posted the last 4 videos about the A7 Mark III, and I'm so like over it. Like I almost want to issue an apology because I feel guilty to my subscribers because I'm just trying to make some money right now.
Have they done well?
Yeah. Way better than usual, and that's just the way things are. But
yeah, you got to play the game a little bit, man.
Short term versus long term. Like if you just keep doing the content you want to be doing, you'll get there eventually.
Yeah, this was a great podcast. We talked about minimalism, Minimalism.
Social media.
Social media.
I went there a little bit. I went to like the weird frequency, Craig, that's like talking about the meaning of life a little bit, but you pulled me back. Like,
I felt good about it. I feel like we touched enough of it.
Yeah. Healthy amount.
Yeah, and it didn't just slip through our fingers, and we didn't make a mess.
Yeah.
And I think this was a good podcast.
Right to the edge of the free will question, and then we diverted. Because that would have been the end of it.
We ran away. We got to the edge of it, and we're like, nah, fuck this. Can't do this right now. Thanks for doing the podcast. This was
fun. Thank you.
Yeah, this is amazing. Do you have any final words?
No. I would just love to say that, like, people need to reach out and like give feedback on the podcast. I don't know how much feedback you get, but podcasts are difficult because they can't really, they have to use something else to get a hold of you.
You know what?
Have you thought about doing voicemails? Voicemails are cool right now.
What do you mean voicemails?
People leave you voicemails and then you pick the best 2 or 3 and then you play them at the end of the podcast, and people like listen to the whole podcast episode to see if they made it into the voicemail. It's like that. Q&A. You know?
I like that. That's cool. Maybe I'll start doing that. But do you do that on Google Voice?
It's just like what you did with Instagram Message. I think that would work well. Yeah. If you have a certain place where you could get videos of people asking questions, boom,
bam, just give it to them. I like that.
Do whatever you want, but that's
I
love
that idea. I might have to do that. Where should we send people? Where do they go to find you on the internet?
CraigAdams.com. That's it. You can find everything from there. I think everyone should have one single place.
That's all anybody should do, because you can find me on social media at this hashtag, at this, and it's like, maybe just do a website.
Yeah. That's it.
CraigAdams.com.
Simple.
Soon to be Craig.Adams.
Ooh,
I'm going to cut that out. That's just going to confuse people. Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for doing the show. And that's the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to find out more about this podcast, you can go to groundupshow.com, or you could also check out the YouTube channel. Lots of videos, excerpts, and clips from this podcast are there. That's youtube.com/Matthew Diavella. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next week.